When I was 11, I used to walk home from school. It was my first year doing that. To get to my front door, you had to go up a set of stairs, and before that was a small gate. I lived, well, at the time, at the end of a long driveway. I'm French, by the way. That day, I opened and closed the gate like usual, went up the stairs like usual, and had just taken out my key to unlock the door when suddenly an old lady appeared, pressed up against the gate behind me. To this day, I don't know if she had followed me or if she had been hiding somewhere near my house and came out when she saw me. I hadn't noticed anyone behind me while walking, but I wasn't paying that much attention either. And there's only my house at the end of the driveway. She couldn't have come from somewhere further down. She asked me if she can go pick apples in my garden. It might sound harmless, but the way she appeared made me immediately suspicious. I honestly admire my 11-year-old self because I told her I would go ask my father and come back to tell her. The thing is, no one was home. I opened the door and locked it behind me. Very quickly. Too quickly. I saw the front door handle move. She was trying to open my door, probably thinking I hadn't locked it. The time between me entering the house and her trying the door was so short that it means she didn't even wait a second behind the gate. The moment I went inside, she came up, opened the gate, and climbed up the stairs. And honestly, trying to open someone's back door instead of waiting for them to come back is already extremely suspicious. That's when all my instincts were confirmed. I panicked and went to hide in the basement. As I was going down, I heard hard knocking on the door. I was shaking. She was just an old lady, but who's to say she wasn't armed? Or even that she was really that old? What if it was a disguise? I hid inside a couch in the basement, lights off. After a while, I came back upstairs. I hadn't heard any glass breaking or the door being forced open, and my key was still in the lock, so she couldn't have used a duplicate. I looked out the window and saw her. She was standing at a distance, watching the house. She didn't see me. Eventually, she turned around and left. I was scared to come home alone for about 2 months after that. My parents never really understood what happened and always downplayed it. I sometimes wonder if they were just uncomfortable with the idea. To this day, I don't even know what that was. I want to preface this story with the day we moved into my new townhome. My brother and I had lived together for a long time, so moving in together wasn't unusual. On the very first morning in our new place, I stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. My brother followed me and we were talking about football when he suddenly froze, pointing toward the wooden frame of our covered patio. Written in big black marker was my name, Ryan. Neither of us had friends or family over yet because we moved everything ourselves. It hadn't been there the night before. We stood there confused but never figured out how it got there. Now fast forward 2 months. One night, I went to the bar down the street with a good friend while my brother stayed home. It was a normal night. I left the bar, grabbed some food, and got back around 1 a.m. My brother was already asleep, so I ate, went upstairs with my German Shepherd, and crashed. The next morning, I noticed something immediately wrong. My bedroom door was wide open, and my dog wasn't in the room. That never happens. My brother doesn't enter my room when I'm asleep, and he definitely doesn't let my dog out. Still, I brushed it off, until I went downstairs. The first thing my brother asked me was, "Did you bring someone home last night?" I told him no. His face instantly changed. Fear, not confusion. He asked again, "Are you sure no one came back with you?" I swore I hadn't. I didn't even talk to anyone besides my friend. That's when he told me what happened. At around 3 a.m., he heard loud noises downstairs. Thinking I was putting together the IKEA desk I had just bought, he got out of bed to yell at me for being so loud. When he reached the landing halfway down the staircase, he flicked on the light. At the bottom of the stairs was a girl. She was standing there, calmly picking up my desk box that had fallen over. She leaned it against the wall, then looked straight up at him. Neither of them said a word. I asked why he didn't confront her or call the police. He said my German Shepherd was standing right next to her, completely relaxed, so he assumed she was someone I had brought home. What unsettled him most was that she didn't panic at all when she saw him. She acted like she belonged there. After locking eyes, she casually walked into the living room instead of going out the front door, which was literally 2 feet behind her. He turned the light off and went back to bed, deciding to ask me who she was in the morning. That's when everything clicked. My bedroom door had been wide open and my dog wasn't with me. Whoever that girl was, at some point she had been in my room. Whoever you are, let's never meet. This is possibly the weirdest encounter I've ever had. It happened after I dropped a friend off after a late night of films at my flat. The route to and from her home back to mine was straightforward. However, on this evening there were roadworks cutting off nearly all the routes back to my home. I must have circled the only open roundabout about 10 times before deciding to take an exit that I knew eventually connected to my town. This exit went through an isolated and rural area, which meant my phone's network and data stopped working. I'd grown up not far from there and had driven through it before during the day, so felt up to the task. This area was home to a large expanse of woodlands. I was aware these woods had developed a reputation for being dangerous after dark. Initially due to drug deals, but in the last few years due to a series of stabbings and assaults that gone unsolved. They're still unsolved, I think. They're not the kind of woods anyone could or would want to camp overnight, or spend time in generally. I wasn't quite sure if I had a sharp turn or exit incoming, and so I drove very slowly down the road that ran alongside the woods. I'd only been going for about a minute until something clanged against my car. I didn't hit or drive over something, no. Something struck my car while it was moving. I stopped the car immediately and pulled over to the side of the road. I debated getting out to check the damage, but chickened out. It was past 2 a.m. These were some dense woods and I liked horror movies too much to be so silly. Staying inside the car, I adjusted the side mirrors to check the damage and luckily had parked under the street lights so I could see fairly well. For my insurance, I needed to know what damage there was and potentially take a picture. Oddly, there was a screwdriver on the ground a few feet behind my car, right where it heard the clang, sat out in the middle of the road. I didn't have time to take a photo because something caught my eye on the other side of the road, in the woods. The streetlights on the other side of the road lit up a few feet into the woods, and under that yellow light, something had moved. I'm not sure if he moved or turned around, but that's when I first noticed him. In the woods, just a foot or so back from the road, was a man. I could see his details in the streetlight and remember it so clearly because it was so incongruous to see another person at that time of night in such a rural and isolated place. He had his back to me. He was mid-height, wore a black leather jacket and dark blue jeans. From the skin exposed, not that there was a lot, I noticed that he had pale white skin and reddish hair. He was stood still and very upright. His hands were by his side, unclenching and clenching, but he kept his back to me the entire time. His head was positioned like he was looking straight ahead into the woods, but it just looked pitch black around him from where I sat. There were no other cars parked or even driving by on this road. Besides this man and me in my car, the road and the rest of the woods looked empty. Before he could turn around or potentially throw anything else, I sped out of there. side mirrors all askew. When I checked my car in the morning, I did have a new scratch in the paintwork, as well as a slow leak in that tire. But frankly, that'd been the last thing on my mind when I got home that night. I wonder what would have happened if I got out of my car to examine what the damage was. I can't rationalize why anyone would be standing out in those woods at 2 a.m. With this back to me, it all felt very Blair Witch Project. To the random stranger who probably threw a screwdriver at my car and turned your back so I wouldn't see your face, let's not meet again. Ever. Cheers. I worked briefly as a psych tech a few years ago. That clinic was a nice place to work. Most of the staff were the same age, early in their careers, and friends with each other. I don't think any of us planned to stay there super long. I think we were really just there because we wanted to put it on our resumes. To be honest, I never loved the business model. The best way I could describe it is that it felt like a subscription service. The place wasn't really helping people create individualized plans for how to treat their issues. It just wanted to sign them up for continued care forever, 2 appointments per month, bundle packages. Everyone pretended that was fine. Jenny was one of the nurses there. She was nice and we got along. One day, Jenny and I left work a little early so we can go to Marshall's and buy holiday decorations. I still had a work call to make, but my manager said I could do that later from home. We could make work calls through an app. I didn't have a car back then. Jenny drove us and she was going to take me home afterward. We got to the store and picked out little decorations. The checkout line was long and was going to take at least half an hour. I figured that it was a good time to make the call I still had to do. I asked Jenny if I could take care of that in her car while she waited in line. She said okay and gave me her keys. I had never made work calls outside of work before, and I completely forgot that I need to write notes. I realized that while I was already on the phone, so that put me in an awkward situation. I said something like, "Hold on, just give me a minute, I need to find a pen." I probably shouldn't have done this. I opened the box between the driver and passenger seat to see if there was anything I could use to write my notes. Jenny had some things I could use in there. She had a little notebook and some pens. I was going to rudely use her notebook without permission and then explain it to her when she'd get back to the car. I thought we'd laugh it off together. Thinking back on this, I would not even think about doing that today. I overstepped my boundaries by opening the box and opening a private notebook. I opened it and started flipping to find the first blank page. As I flipped, I saw that each page had a name, an address, and some notes next to it. The names looked familiar at first, but I didn't think they were patients. That wouldn't have made any sense since Jenny had no reason to keep a notebook like that. But the more I flipped through, the clearer it became. Yes, they were all patients from our clinic. Every single one. They had their addresses. Also a description of the house. It said things like blue house or house with the basketball hoop. My jaw must have dropped. I still can't think of any reason why someone would have those notes. I put the notebook back, closed the box, put my phone on speaker, and finished my call using the notes app on my phone. I waited quietly until Jenny came back. I never told anyone about this. I really can't think of any reason for a nurse to keep that kind of notebook with her.